and I've had the privilege of working alongside Lee for the last year as Beacon's Vice President of Advancement and Communications. I'm going to be guiding us through today's program, where we're going to hear from a number of people who've been part of the Beacon journey and have been shaped by the legacy of Lee Blondes. And what a legacy it is. For all the people who are gathered here today, we know there are thousands more who've been touched by the organization that Lee and many of you helped build. Let's hear from one of them now. Jim Kurtmanian was the senior minister of Plymouth Church from 1996 until 2015. He was a co-founder of Beacon, then Plymouth Church Neighborhood Foundation, and is an ex officio member of the Beacon Board of Directors.
Oh, Lee, I wish I were able to be with you today. I remember when Beacon, it was then Plymouth Church Neighborhood Foundation, was a kind of a wild dream conjured by a small group of visionaries at the church. We had a few $1,000s in the bank and 3 wonderful volunteers, Margie Bracken and Marcia Giske and Linda Sartorius, and a few thoughtful leaders like Steve Wellington and Scott Harder and Carol Truesdell. And we had some initial successes, but to be sure, but I don't think any of us could have imagined the impact of your leadership when you came to guide our fledgling organization. It was truly a case of the right person in the right place at the right time. You were soft-spoken, but incredibly tough. You had the gifts to manage a complex and detailed organization, but you always kept sight of the broad and far-seeing vision that animated us. You were able to lead from a spiritual base while working in a political world. But above all, what was clear to us then and what is clear still today is that you keep people at the center of your work. Not groups of people, not anonymous groups, but real individuals, people with faces, people struggling for a better life. You see their value, and you see their promise. You see the holiness in each one. Tonight, this very night, there are hundreds upon hundreds of people who have homes because of you, Lee. Most of them don't know your name, and they wouldn't recognize your face, but your good and warm spirit and the spirit of the organization that you have built will hold them and nurture them and protect them and, yes, love them. You have been a blessing to so many. You have been an inspiration and a blessing to me. So now as you go on to a new chapter of your life, I hope that those same blessings will surround you like a sheltering arm and a much-deserved embrace.
What a start. I'm delighted now to ask Naomi up to the podium. Naomi's a former resident of Nicollet Square, a Beacon building, and her face is known to many of us in the room because she was an essential voice and advocate alongside Lee as Beacon worked to make affordable housing available to more people in the Twin Cities. Naomi.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Naomi Ladd, and I'm a previous client with Beacon Interfaith. I'm from Edina, Minnesota, go Hornets, and graduated there in 2012. Shortly after graduating high school, I went homeless midway through my second semester of college, and after a year and some months, I had no housing and moved into Nicollet Square. Before moving in, I was shelter-minded and I didn't think anybody gave a care about my siblings and my own displacement. After shooting and missing for housing for so many times after a year, that's when I asked friends for help. My high school mentor told me about Oasis, a drop-in center for homeless youth, and they told me about Beacon. Before long, I had my own place to stay. Beacon dramatically impacted my life. It was the first stepping stone to having housing after nowhere to live. The best part about Beacon Home was the genuine love and caring from everyone who supported. I had many resources, such as the housing manager, the caseworkers, the other clients, and the front desk staff. The front desk staff was essential to our safety and sanity. There were times I woke up from night terrors in the middle of the night, and I can go down to the staff at 2 or 3 in the morning and have a talk with them. Knowing someone was there 24/7 was godsend. Once I settled in, I met Lee. She reached out and asked if I was interested in telling my story to help fundraisers for others to have the blessing that I had myself. I without hesitation agreed and planned to meet. Initially when I met her, my mind was on guard and mistrusting. Oh great, another older white woman coming to save the day, was my thought process. But shortly after, her actions proved me wrong in the best way. My first impression of Lee was her style for sure. She dressed professional, but not too professional to where I was uncomfortable. She furthered this by remaining humble, present, and attentive. I felt as if I was her equal, regardless of the obvious divide. She instilled perseverance in me, allotting me a tenacious attitude, showing me that there was an opportunity for me to never give up and never back down. When I was nervous backstage at a convention center speaking, I told Lee I was nervous. She reassured me that things were going to be okay. She hugged me and let me know that this was for a good purpose. However things came out, it was meant to be. I've taken this moment and I've brought it with me through my journey of sobriety. Whenever I am feeling down, low, or when I'm lacking confidence in my ability to offer myself the love I deserve, I remember this moment fondly. It reminds me that all of this is for the greater good, and this nervousness that I feel is but of growing pains. Beacon offered me a place to lay my head and an atmosphere to feel safe. Having that as my first place to live was my key component to my growth. Not many people know this, but having a place to call your home after uncertainty helps to get your dignity back. Dignity is essential. Having a home base is what keeps it solid. Having a foundation, one offered to me by Beacon, helped me to remain sane. Having my own bathroom, my own bedroom, a place to cook my meals, made me feel independent and an integral member to society. One thing I want Lee to know and remember is that with her and Beacon, I wouldn't have gotten my ACL surgery with a place to recover, as well as going back to school for massage, making good job decisions, and having good mental health. Lee, just know that your legacy lives on. The torch has been handed off, but the flame isn't out, nor will it ever be anytime soon. You've inspired the next generation to stand tall and continue what you started. May you enjoy your fruits of your labor and rest well at night, knowing that you did this shit. Congratulations on retirement, and I wish you the best.
Our next 3 speakers are Steve Wellington, who's a founding supporter of Beacon and one of Lee's longtime advisors, Commissioner of Minnesota Housing, Jennifer Ho, and Beacon's current board chair, Charlie Flynn. Steve, it's all yours.
Thanks very much. This is quite an honor, and it brings back a lot of memories. A lot of people in this room were responsible for getting Beacon launched, and particularly there's a subset of those that remember very clearly how Lee Blondes got hired. I was there. It was 2002. In November, we had started what was then, as Jim mentioned, Plymouth Church Neighborhood Foundation, later renamed Beacon, and we were a largely volunteer organization. As we mentioned a number of times, we had about $30,000 in the bank when we actually purchased Lydia, and it was $1.6 million to close, and so it was a little gap. But I remember talking with Lee for the first time in that room. Maybe Lee remembers as well. And she was experienced, but didn't know us very well. And I kind of thought that she was interviewing us, which was actually the appropriate approach. Very talented, could have found employment in a lot of different places. And it was clear to myself and others who talked with her that she was the one. And we needed to close on financing for that Lydia Apartments in about 8 weeks. And we weren't so certain we were going to recruit somebody in that period of time. So it was a sense, how can we land this wonderful, talented person? And I think she sensed an opportunity as well to help build an organization from the ground up, which I think she has more than accomplished. 1,000 housing units since then. Wow. And just as important, maybe even more important, 100 faith communities part of that partnership with Beacon. Very good. And I'm very oriented to finance and construction, and she had to teach me that community organizing and getting a group to express its strong sentiments in favor of a project was the most important thing to accomplish with an organization like Beacon. You can always have ideas, but can you get them accomplished? And she had that spark, that drive, that ability to communicate, and was building an organization with an emphasis on accomplishing those things in a collective manner. And truth be told, I kind of like myself to go forward to get things done. It was maybe a good partnership, but I think Lee had that extra dimension that is really critical when you're attempting, as we all are, to have a broader array of affordable housing available to folks. And she was also focused, as I think most of you are aware, 85% of residents currently in Beacon housing, 85% are at 30% of area median income and below. And it is frankly a little easier to deal with people that are a little higher up the income food chain, but Lee was very focused, and the board that worked with her was indeed also focused on meeting those needs in a very appropriate and progressive manner. And it was my pleasure to sort of see this evolve. I was chair of the board there for about 6 years, and have been a big supporter of everything that's been accomplished, but particularly proud to say thank you for all that you've accomplished, Lee.
Come behind Steve, you have to lower the mic. Rachel Robinson, my deputy, and I were just talking about, when did we meet Lee Blondes? And we both realized you had to go back quite a ways to figure out what that was, and far enough back that I can't remember the first meeting. So I'm Jennifer Ho, I'm the Commissioner of Minnesota Housing, and I think I've known Lee in at least 5 different jobs, all told. I think the first time I met you, you were still managing the rotating shelter for families before you took the job here. But I was running Hearth Connection, thinking about service financing when Lee came to Plymouth. Certainly had a front row seat watching the legal work in order to get the right to build and do what we wanted to do there. And look at it now, it doubled in size. And then in this role, have the opportunity, of course, to show up when we break ground and show up when we cut ribbons, but to show up together at the Capitol. And I like to think of myself as somebody who thinks big. Lee Blondes thinks humongous. I'm out there saying 1 billion, she's at least 2. And I think that there is something that's really kind about her, which masks this tenaciousness. This, if you do community organizing with enough people, you know you've got enough people who nod their head yes when you say, I think we should go this way, that you can be determined, and you can think bigger than even the big thinkers. So I think that it's only fitting, first of all, that I thank everybody that counts themselves amongst the Beacon supporters, and importantly, the Beacon advocates. I was telling somebody, you punch above your weight at the Capitol, and then my staff reminded me I'm supposed to use nonviolent metaphors. So you cook above your training skill. But you do have an outsized presence in terms of your advocacy up at the Capitol. I know because Lee has had me into more churches to talk to you than my parents have been able to get me into for years. That you gather faithfully, and you are very diligent about doing the work. I appreciate the fact that you send me advocacy letters, you send me thank you notes, you have children draw pictures with crayons and you send them to me. But also more importantly that you make your message loud and clear at every level of government. I really appreciate the way that you have highlighted the importance of grassroots organizing around specific developments and getting them located and getting them cited. It's phenomenal. So, you know, Lee, I hope, I met your husband. We were joking about how funny it will be to watch you do nothing. Good luck with that. But I hope that you can feel in this crowd, in your own reflections, in your own transition, the extraordinary footprint into the ground that you have done with this work. And you have never been afraid of the ambition of what needs to be done. And, you know, we'd be looking over, you know, selections and say, oh, look, 3 this year from Beacon. Oh, look. You know, but you always knew what was called for and weren't afraid. And perhaps if there's a Beacon way, it's buy the building, Steve, for $30,000 and worry about the other 1 point whatever million next. And I think that that's part of your conviction, your leadership, your confidence, but also it's about this. It's about building a network of people that know how to show up and know how to do the right thing. So congratulations on your retirement. At Minnesota Housing, I'd say we'll miss you, but I have a sneaking suspicion I might hear from you again.
Look around. Look at the people that are here. My name is Charlie Flynn. I'm the board chair, currently serving. But as I'm listening to the speakers and I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing the engagement and the enlightenment and the passion that has come together because of your leadership. So thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. I do have some prepared remarks, and so I'm going to use those because that will keep me on track. But I first met Lee 14 years ago when she was looking for some new volunteers for the Families Moving Forward Leadership Committee. Families Moving Forward had always been near to the hearts of me and my family, and I was eager to join. Now as Beacon's board chair, I've been asked to share with you what it's been like to partner with Lee during these years, during these 14 some years. So Lee's worn many different hats over the years, but she is always present and always brings her true self regardless of the hat that she's wearing. So we've heard that time and again this evening. So some words that I thought of that would help describe Lee. Excited, or excitable. She was gritty. She is formidable. I'm going to add one in here, the velvet hammer, because I like that. That's unrelenting but with a soft touch. So smart, determined, accountable, consistent, eager, and encouraging. So a lot of words that kind of come around and describe Lee. So one of the unique things about Lee is that she consistently turns adversity into strength. And we've watched that, we've witnessed it when we've been part of it. Sometimes the cost of the battle outweighs the outcome, And those are the times that Lee makes some notes and files them away. But when there's an injustice in the community, or an inconsistency in the motives or procedures of the system, you can bet that the resources will be deployed and the collaborative will be energized. With Lee, it's always been one step back, but 3 steps forward. So thanks. There have been too many wins to count, but one that truly stands out to me was the movement that we went from a project-based strategy to a collaborative one, right? So some of you may recall it, and some of you may just have been witness to it. But I would say that the concept was highly strategic and was filled with nuances that affected almost every stakeholder group that we had at Beacon. We would be reaching out to new congregations, but potentially jeopardizing some long-held relationships. And indeed, some of those things came to pass. In the end, we not only grew the congregational list of the collaborative, but we increased each congregation's commitment to the collaborative, and ultimately raised our influence and effectiveness throughout Minneapolis, St. Paul, the surrounding suburbs, and now the state of Minnesota. Awesome. Over the past 3 years, Lee has also laid the groundwork for her transition into retirement, setting us all up for success. Beacon has a new and talented senior leadership team. The board is poised for growth and waving a newly minted strategic plan. And staff is engaged and excited for the next chapter of Beacon's journey. As we speak, there's also a pool of talented CEO candidates that are eagerly preparing for their next round of interviews with the search committee. So thanks. Lee's covered it all. And for this, on behalf of the congregations, the volunteers, everybody here, and the board of directors, I'd like to say thank you. Thanks, Lee.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Helmer. I first met Lee in 2011 in a bar in Chaska. A group of us had invited her to be there because we had a problem with family homelessness in Scott and Carver County. And so that was the first day that Families Moving Forward Southwest became an idea, and then we made it a reality. I've been a member of the Beacon board for the last 9 years, and it's been good to walk with you, Lee, for so much of this journey. It's clear that the organization that you have built has touched more people than voices can fit into this program. So Heidi and I are going to share some highlights of the dozens of appreciations that were sent in when the news of your retirement went out to the community.
From board member TJ Ticey. I am a better person with more empathy and understanding for the work that we are about. I'll miss Lee and her style and grace under fire.
Gwen Rollo shares, Lee, you have been leading incredible, life-saving, and life-changing work. Thank you for the opportunities you gave to me to be a part of Beacon and FMF.
From Tom Parent. Working alongside Lee during the development of Nicollet Square was a showcase of her values, her thoughtfulness, and grace that wowed many from the neighborhood, myself included. What had the potential to be acrimonious found a way to be honest in its exploration and creative in its problem solving.
Board member Nancy Burns shared this. She has the facts, she perseveres, and she finds a way to make big things happen. That's for sure.
From Peggy Johnson. You've been so dedicated and visionary and so good at choosing new staff members who've added to Beacon in so many ways. The respect for one another and the commitment to working towards everyone having a home is palpable in the office.
From Emily Goldthwait, Director of Congregational Organizing. We visited Red Lake, and everything was a cross-cultural learning moment. From visiting the tribal council and learning about their culture of decision-making, to the tour of the reservation, where we came to understand the housing crisis through another lens. And we saw bears. I was there too. I appreciate Lee's openness to step out of her and Beacon's comfort zone for the sake of being a better partner to Indigenous community.
From Lee Mock, look where Beacon is today. Beacon's accomplishments are huge. Beacon's victories have been off the charts. Who would have thought that a legislative initiative could have played out as it did this year? And quietly, in the background behind the curtain, stands Lee Blonde smiling. And from above, Paul Wellstone looking down and saying, "Well done, Lee."
Julie Welch shares this. I couldn't be more proud to work with and associate with any other organization. Beacon simply does the right thing for everyone.
Jackie Sullivan wrote, "No challenge has been too great for you. I'm very grateful for your commitment to Beacon's vision and for your strategic ability to see the path forward."
From A.J. Dordell. Lee hired me when the board gave her the go-ahead to hire Beacon's first full-time finance admin person. We grew 250% in the first 15 months I was there. And I always marveled at Lee's ability to turn any bad financial news into a gap message.
Kevin Walker, Beacon's VP of Housing Development, wrote, "Lee has taught me much about what it is to be a leader. She's always strategic, understands why and how the details matter, understands the power of cutting an issue, invites people to act on their values, knows the importance and impact of technical expertise, and believes we do our best work in collaboration within and beyond Beacon." From Ben Helvig Anderson, the VP of Policy and Organizing. While she is an expert at all parts of our work, I see that heart of an organizer. I appreciate the amount of time she invested in me and our policy work, and am grateful for that passion and vision I hope we can carry. We're nearly there. Board member Linda Sandvig. While I have always felt passion for the projects I've worked on, my pragmatic nature has taught me to favor probabilities over possibilities. Now I can see that change needs challenge and progress needs protest. I call that channeling my inner Lee. And finally, from Dale Forsberg. Lee and Beacon help me live my faith. What can be more important than that? And there were more comments than we have time to share. Lee, congratulations on your retirement, and now we'd love to have you share a few words